Okay, first let's address the common misconception that Link can't even speak. He can, just not often, and when he does, he says very little. And this should have already been obvious in the many games the player is given a choice in dialogue. While you don't get to see how Link words himself, you do see him respond in some way. And this has always been a clever way to hide Link's character, not knowing how he spoke, allowing the players to reflect their personality in him. You imagine Link responding and how you would respond. But in Breath of the Wild, Nintendo may have took it to another level, giving you options for Link to sound far more sassy than a hero normally would. From rudely responding to his elders, to even tricking lonely dudes that he's a chick and scoring his boots because of it. Bozai's such a simp. Or does that make Link a trap? Yeah, back on topic. Link has always been one of video games' biggest heroes, the silent but deadly warrior. And since his first appearance, we've never really seen Link speak. The only time you hear his voice is through the many painful grunts he's given throughout the many games. And of course, the CDI games.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
My boy.
The horrible cartoon in which Link becomes a pervert.
That'd be your lucky day, princess.
That's not what I'd call it.
And the manga. But none of these are a part of the main series or are even canon to the main game story. So like most fans, I don't really include these. But throughout the main series of games, we've known Link to be a silent hero, who generously risked his life for the greater good. A common trope we now see in tons of games. The run-of-the-mill, silent protagonist who saves the day out of kindness. Honestly, at this point, this has been the standard for RPGs that doesn't want to give the main character, well, character. Though some, including myself, would argue it's so that you can see yourself in that character, which does make sense as it's evident with Link. Nintendo has always chosen for the player not to see his mannerisms when speaking, making the character somewhat unknown, leaving a blank sheet to base yourself around him. Link has always felt like a reflection of the player, a character that you can see yourself in, but also inspire you. And that alone has been one of the many factors in which why Link works so well being a silent hero. But aside from being able to relate to Link, his reason for being so silent goes far deeper than that. Breath of the Wild actually gives us a far more satisfying reason in why Link is this way. With Breath of the Wild being the first Zelda title to have voice acting in it, it really emphasized on how quiet Link is, as he was the only main character not given a voice to speak. This made him seem pretty awkward when interacting with other characters that would speak to him, especially when accompanying Zelda and the many memories you uncover. Even Zelda herself would point out how he just stares and says nothing, not understanding why he is like this. And luckily she goes into far more detail when writing about it in her diary, which actually uncovers the actual secret behind Link's silence. As I'm sure a lot of you who played Breath of the Wild may already know about this, but in Hyrule Castle you can find 2 personal journals that belong to Princess Zelda. While there isn't much left of Hyrule Castle after the Great Calamity, those 2 books somehow managed to stay intact for Link to read 100 years later. One focuses heavy on her Sheikah research, which can be found in her study, and the other one, being her actual diary, is kept in her room. And her diary is where she goes into detail about Link's silence. Like when how Link accompanied her in her research but never said a single word, making her wonder about what Link is even thinking, making her imagination run wild. This, along with her research not going well, angered her, having her take it out on Link, telling him not to tag along with her, but Link, being her appointed knight, couldn't just leave her.
I thought I made it clear that I'm not in need of an escort. It seems I'm the only one with a mind of my own. I, the person in question, am fine, regardless of the king's orders. Return to the castle and tell that to my father, please.
And later Zelda realizes how important that actually is, as one day during her research, she gets attacked by the Yiga clan, and if Link wasn't there, she may have been killed. So luckily Link was there to save her life without question. And from there, Zelda started to get a newfound respect for Link, deciding to apologize for her rude behavior. This slowly caused her to start connecting with Link, having him open up more and more to her.
Is that what I think it is? Look at this. I don't believe it, but I actually caught one. This delicacy is known to have very, very potent effects under the proper circumstances. Ta-da! Research from the castle shows ingesting one of these can actually augment certain abilities. We wouldn't be in a controlled environment out here, but with your level of physical fitness, you'd be a perfect candidate for the study.
Eventually she was able to ask him why he was so quiet all the time, and surprisingly, Link tells her exactly why. The reason being, with so much at stake and with so many counting on him, he feels the need to stay strong and silently bear any burden, causing him to never outwardly express his thoughts and feelings. So while he does suffer hardships like everyone else, he never wants to burden anyone with it. As she pictured Link to be perfect with no flaws, but realized that Link does suffer like everyone else, but just keeps it to himself. This gave Zelda a ton of perspective on Link, wanting to get to know him even more. And while I want to say a lot of fans sort of came to this conclusion a long time ago, as we had to kind of fill in the gap ourselves, for the first time ever, we got an official reason behind Link's silence, one explained by Link himself. But notice how we only know what Link said through Zelda's wording, still not letting us hear how Link said it himself, keeping the aspect a mystery to the player? Which fits to what was mentioned earlier, that players can put their mannerisms in Link and see themselves as his character, because he is a vessel of good that we can reflect ourselves in. And Nintendo has done this on purpose for that reason. This also actually explains why Link can cross-dress so well. While Link is obviously a male, his design in Breath of the Wild is actually supposed to reflect both genders, so no matter what the player, they can relate to him, hence why he looked so feminine in Breath of the Wild. And yes, for those wondering, these statements were actually confirmed by the director himself, Ayanuma. Link is meant to be a hero anyone can relate to. Which may explain why most of our beloved video game heroes are usually silent protagonists. It gives room for the player to see themselves in them. And sometimes having the character talk may just ruin them for you. But that isn't always the case. There are somewhat silent protagonists who speak very little, and that balance is a nice way to give the protagonist a bit more character, but not overdo them.
It's over!
That's my line.
While some may think that this way of character design is lazy, I think it's really welcomed for characters like Link. Not saying that all protagonists should be like this, as Nintendo sure has a lot of them now thinking about it. But with Link, I hope that never changes. His reasoning will always make sense. He is a spirit that carries the legacy of many heroes prior. A warrior unlike many that is never not serious. His silence will always fit him. And I'm glad Nintendo actually went into why in Breath of the Wild. So, what do you guys think? Do you wish Link could talk? And what is your opinion about silent protagonists in games? Please let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. I'm finally back at it, so expect much more videos soon. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been ZeldaMaster, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!